A single whisper behind the door turned Messi's blood to ice. Ronaldo's shadow blocked the only way out. Inside, Dua Lipa's secret waited, sharp as broken glass. And tonight, silence would cost more than truth ever could. When Messi stepped into the dimly lit hallway, he felt the cold marble floor beneath his shoes. Soft echoes of distant music drifted through the heavy walls of the private villa. He could hear his own heartbeat, louder than the whispers behind the door ahead. Ronaldo stood near the entrance, his eyes fixed on Messi with an unreadable stare. Between them, a faint glow spilled from a crack where Dua Lipa's voice slipped out like a secret. Messi reached for the door, but Ronaldo's hand caught his wrist. The hallway smelled faintly of expensive cologne and something metallic he could not place. Neither man spoke. Inside, Dua Lipa's voice trembled, carrying a truth that tasted like poison in Messi's ears. He pressed his ear to the cold wood, every syllable slicing through his calm. Ronaldo leaned closer, his breath warm but his eyes ice. The music inside stopped. Dua Lipa's words grew clearer, sharper, as if the walls themselves wanted Messi to hear them. Messi's pulse raced. Ronaldo's grip tightened. A soft click came from inside, a lock turning, a shadow moving. Messi's eyes widened when he heard his name spill from Dua Lipa's lips, wrapped around a secret that should never have escaped her mouth. A sudden gust from under the door brought a scent Messi recognized instantly, the same perfume that lingered on his hotel pillow days ago. Ronaldo's knuckles whitened. The handle turned from the inside. Messi's breath caught in his throat as the door creaked open. The door opened just enough for a thin sliver of light to cut across Messi's face. Inside, the room flickered with the soft pulse of neon blue and violet, shadows dancing across gilded mirrors. Dua Lipa stood by the grand piano, her back to them, fingers trembling on the keys. She did not turn around. Messi felt Ronaldo's breath shift, steady but sharp, like a blade pressed against silence. The air tasted of stale champagne and something darker, something rotten at the edges. Messi stepped forward, the floor groaning under his weight. A single candle burned on the piano, its flame shivering as if it, too, heard the secret still dripping from Dua Lipa's lips. She whispered his name again, this time softer, almost afraid of the sound. Messi's eyes darted to the velvet drapes swaying beside the open terrace doors. Beyond them, the city lights flickered like distant, uncaring stars. Ronaldo did not move from the threshold. He watched Messi like a hunter watches prey that strays too close to the snare. Messi cleared his throat, but his voice came out dry, cracked like old parchment. "What did you tell him?" His words fell into the cold room, swallowed by the shadows. Dua Lipa's shoulders stiffened. Her reflection in the mirror showed eyes wide with guilt and something else. Fear, maybe hunger. He pressed one key. A note echoed, long and sour, hanging in the air like a scream buried alive. Messi took another step. The floor beneath the Persian rug felt slick. He looked down and saw a smear, dark and glistening, trailing under the piano bench. A chill crawled up his spine, wrapping around his throat. Ronaldo's fingers drummed on the doorframe, rhythm steady, mocking. Messi's mind raced back to the night in Madrid. The phone call, the hidden envelope slipped under his hotel door. Dua Lipa spoke again, her voice raw, tasting of secrets no one should own. "It was never meant for you," she breathed, still facing the piano. Her reflection shifted, showing Messi the tiny glass vial balanced on the keys. Its contents shimmered, thick and viscous, catching the candlelight in sickly swirls. Messi's breath quickened, each inhale burning his lungs like ice. He could feel Ronaldo behind him now, closer, the heat of his anger radiating through the cold. Dua Lipa's fingers caressed the vial. Her nails clicked against the glass, a sound like teeth chattering in the dark. Messi wanted to speak, to shout, but the words lodged in his chest like stones. Outside, thunder rolled across the city, shaking the windows in their frames. The candle flickered, throwing monstrous shapes onto the walls. Dua Lipa's whisper cut through the thunder, slicing straight into Messi's gut. "You should not have come here." Messi's gaze snapped to her eyes in the mirror. Dark pools, bottomless, pulling him in. The vial tipped. A single drop clung to its rim, quivering before falling onto the ivory keys. The hiss it made sounded alive. Messi lurched forward, but his shoes slid on the slick floor. He grabbed the piano's edge, breath ragged, eyes locked on the stain spreading across the keys. Behind him, Ronaldo finally stepped inside. His footsteps were deliberate, cruel, echoing against marble and secrets. Dua Lipa turned to face them fully now, and her smile was too calm for the storm it carried. Messi tasted blood where he had bitten his tongue. Ronaldo's shadow fell over him, massive, suffocating. The piano note still hummed somewhere in the back of Messi's skull, a warning he could not unhear. Rain began to tap at the terrace doors like impatient fingers. Dua Lipa lifted the vial again, but this time it was empty. Her eyes gleamed under the candle's dying light. She stepped closer, the hem of her silk dress dragging through the dark smear on the floor. The smell hit Messi then, iron sharp and unforgiving. Ronaldo's hand came to rest on Messi's shoulder, heavy as a stone lid on a grave. The room seemed to tighten around them, walls bending inward to listen. Dua Lipa's voice dropped to a hush, but each word landed like a hammer on Messi's chest. "It is inside you now." Messi's knees buckled, a shiver crawling up his spine to the base of his skull. Ronaldo's grip hardened, fingers digging into flesh and bone. Thunder cracked again, louder, as if the sky itself wanted to drown out her words. The mirrors trembled on the walls, reflecting fragments of the impossible truth. Messi's vision blurred, the candle flame splitting into two, then three. His stomach twisted, a deep, writhing ache blooming behind his ribs. Ronaldo leaned in, his lips inches from Messi's ear. His breath smelled of bitterness and triumph. "You were never supposed to hear it." Dua Lipa's smile widened, too white, too sharp in the trembling light. Somewhere in the house, a door slammed, sending a gust of stale air through the hallway. The piano keys clattered under Messi's trembling hands. Something pulsed in his veins, slow at first, then hungry. The candle guttered, the flame sputtering as wax bled down its stem. Messi tried to pull away, but Ronaldo's hand held him in place, immovable. Dua Lipa leaned closer, her perfume choking the last clean air in the room. She pressed her lips to Messi's ear, her breath warm and sweet and poisoned. "Do you feel it yet?" Messi's heartbeat stuttered. The shadows behind her shifted, taking shape, growing teeth and edges in the half-light. The rain turned violent, hammering the terrace doors like fists demanding to be let in. Messi's vision dimmed at the edges, colors swimming in and out of focus. A tremor ran through his chest, each heartbeat now an echo of something foreign. Ronaldo's fingers dug deeper, nails breaking skin. The mirrors caught Messi's reflection, pale, wide-eyed pupils swallowing the color of his gaze. Dua Lipa's hand traced his jaw, gentle, mocking. The last candle flickered once. Then darkness swallowed the room as Messi felt something inside him shift. The darkness pressed against Messi's eyes, thick and suffocating, wrapping his thoughts in a cold, wet fog. His breath rattled, shallow and sharp, scraping past a throat that felt too narrow, too dry. Somewhere in the pitch black, he could still sense Dua Lipa's presence, warm and syrupy, like a sweet rot clinging to his skin. Ronaldo's grip had not loosened. His fingers were iron hooks sunk deep into Messi's shoulder. A low hum rose from the piano, a single note vibrating against the silence, as if the keys themselves remembered what had been spilled onto them. Messi's knees bent under the weight of something slithering inside his chest, threading itself through muscle and bone like smoke that burned. He wanted to speak, to demand an answer, but his tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth, heavy with the taste of copper. A faint glow pulsed where the candle had died, a pale green shimmer that seemed to crawl along the floorboards. It pooled under the piano bench, flickering in time with Messi's heartbeat. Dua Lipa's silhouette drifted closer, the hem of her dress whispering across the cold marble, picking up the stain and dragging it like a bloody thread behind her. She knelt before Messi, her breath brushing his cheek, her eyes twin voids that reflected nothing back. Ronaldo's shadow loomed over them both, a tower of quiet violence ready to fall. The hum from the piano deepened, becoming a low growl that buzzed through Messi's bones. He gasped when Dua Lipa's fingers brushed his throat, nails tracing the faint line where his pulse fluttered, wild and unsteady. Her other hand lifted the empty vial, turning it between her fingers so the last drop clung stubbornly to the glass. It slid free, landing on her palm, where it shimmered like liquid emerald. She brought it to his lips. Messi's head jerked back, but Ronaldo's grip forced him still, neck bent like prey beneath a knife. Dua Lipa's whisper dripped into his ear, her voice softer than the rain pounding the terrace doors. "This is the moment you stop being his." The green drop touched Messi's tongue, cold at first, then burning like acid across raw skin. He shuddered, a violent spasm rattling his ribs. The hum inside the piano snapped into a sharp crack, a discordant chord that set his teeth on edge. Through the buzzing in his head, Messi felt Ronaldo lean closer, breath brushing his hairline like a brand. "You should not have trusted her." The words bled through Messi's mind, each one ringing with finality he could not swallow. Something inside him split. The air thickened, vibrating with a low, electric hiss that made the candle stub flicker back to life, burning now in sickly green. Messi's eyes rolled back for a heartbeat, just long enough to see shapes shifting behind the mirrors, shadows that did not belong to any of them. The taste on his tongue spread down his throat like oil poured into an open wound. His chest heaved, lungs straining against a pressure that did not belong there. Dua Lipa's smile grew sharper, lips parting just enough to reveal a glimpse of her teeth. Too white, too many. She pressed her forehead to Messi's, a gesture so intimate it made his stomach turn. The piano rattled, strings thrumming with a sound that should not exist in any song. Ronaldo's fingers released Messi's shoulder, only to grip the back of his neck, guiding him forward, forcing his forehead harder against hers. Behind them, the rain turned to hail, tapping a jagged rhythm against the glass. Dua Lipa's breath caught, and she exhaled a single word Messi did not understand, a word that tasted like rust and old stones. The green flame at the candle's wick guttered, casting flickering shadows that stretched and writhed along the walls. A sharp pain bloomed behind Messi's eyes, a bolt of agony that made him bite down on his own tongue until he tasted iron and salt. The shadows behind the mirrors moved closer, pressing against the glass from the other side, their shapes half-formed, shifting with the same sickly green glow. Messi's vision blurred, smearing the room into a swirl of colorless smog. His chest tightened, ribs creaking as if something inside him was growing too big for the fragile cage of his bones. Ronaldo's hand never wavered, nails digging deeper into his skin, anchoring him to this moment like a stake through soft flesh. Dua Lipa's whisper burrowed into his ear again, softer now, each syllable sliding under his skin like a splinter. "It is waking up." Messi's knees slammed against the marble, his weight dragging Ronaldo slightly forward but not breaking the iron hold. A trickle of warm liquid slid down Messi's chin, blood or sweat or something far older than both. The shadows behind the mirrors pressed harder now, glass bowing outward, quivering as if ready to shatter and release what lurked behind. The hum inside the piano became a steady, guttural chant, vibrating up through Messi's knees, spreading to his spine. He felt it coiling around his heart, squeezing until every beat sounded like a drum in a deep, empty cave. Ronaldo leaned so close Messi could feel the smirk forming on his lips, could almost taste the bitterness behind it. "You thought secrets were harmless." Dua Lipa's laughter, soft and broken, cracked open the heavy silence, echoing off the walls that now seemed too narrow, too close. The shadows bled through the glass, first a trickle, then a tide dripping down the mirrors in thin, writhing tendrils. Messi's eyes rolled back again, but this time he saw through the walls, past the flickering lights, into something vast and empty and cold. His hands trembled, fingers clawing at the piano's polished edge, nails scraping grooves into the old wood. Dua Lipa pulled back just enough for Messi to see her face clearly in the guttering green light. Her pupils blown wide, her smile no longer human. The vial dropped from her fingers, shattering on the marble, spilling the last of its poison into the spreading stain at their feet. The air stank of ozone and iron, thick enough to coat his tongue with every labored breath. A deep creak split the room as the terrace doors shuddered under the pounding hail. The shadows at the mirrors oozed across the walls now, crawling toward Messi in slow, hungry waves. Ronaldo's grip shifted, pulling Messi upright again, forcing him to face Dua Lipa as the darkness gathered behind her like a mouth about to swallow them whole. His heartbeat stuttered once, twice, then stopped. For one terrible second, the silence swallowed everything, the pounding hail, the rattling piano strings, even Dua Lipa's ragged breathing. Messi felt the cold rush in to fill the space where his heartbeat used to echo. His vision narrowed to a pinprick of green flame wavering at the edge of the dark. The shadows behind Dua Lipa surged forward, rising like smoke given teeth and purpose. They clung to her shoulders, spilled over her collarbones, coiling around her neck like slick, living rope. Messi's knees buckled again, but Ronaldo's iron hand clamped around his throat, forcing him upright, spine bowed under the weight of what was blooming inside him. The smell hit him next, sulfur and rotting flowers, so thick he gagged on it. His tongue felt numb, useless in his mouth. Dua Lipa leaned closer, her eyes glittering with that same unnatural green that pulsed in the shadows crawling up her skin. She pressed her lips to his temple, the heat of her breath burning into his hairline. "Listen," she whispered. Inside Messi's skull, something cracked, a brittle snap like old bone splintering under pressure. A sound poured in, first a hiss, then a whisper, then 1,000 overlapping voices chanting in a language older than the walls around them. He saw flashes behind his eyelids, a river black as oil, a moon split in half, Ronaldo's face reflected in an endless spiral of broken glass. The candle flared, throwing jagged light across the room, shadows lurching like puppets on invisible strings. Dua Lipa's fingers pressed to his chest, nails biting through fabric and flesh, cold enough to numb, sharp enough to tear. Ronaldo's other hand clamped Messi's jaw, forcing his mouth open. The shadows slithered forward, drawn to the gap between his teeth, slick tendrils snaking across his tongue. Messi tried to scream, but the sound died in his throat, buried under the chorus in his head. The piano behind him convulsed, strings snapping with a shriek that scraped down his spine. Beyond the terrace, the wind howled, rattling the doors so hard the glass fractured into a spiderweb of cracks. Dua Lipa's voice twisted around the voices in Messi's skull, guiding them, shaping them into something heavier, crueler. "You were never meant to be free." A thin trickle of black liquid dripped from the corner of Messi's mouth, bitter and burning. Ronaldo's eyes glowed with reflected green flame, a mirror for the thing writhing in the space between them. The shadows funneled faster now, pushing down Messi's throat in pulsing waves that made his stomach twist and his vision pulse red. The walls pulsed with him, breathing, bending closer, as if the whole room wanted to crush him down to marrow and dust. The broken candle flame danced wildly, flickering shadows that split and multiplied like insects under glass. Messi's hands clawed at Ronaldo's wrist, but the grip did not loosen. Bone met bone, skin split under his nails. Dua Lipa's smile stretched impossibly wide, her teeth glinting like tiny daggers in the shifting green light. The last of the shadows bled from the mirrors, sliding across the marble floor, coiling around Messi's ankles like shackles forged from living tar. The voices inside him crescendoed, a roar that drowned out the storm outside, the rattle of the glass, the shuddering piano. Ronaldo leaned in, his forehead pressed to Messi's, breath cold as the grave. "This is what you chose," he hissed, his words stitching into the roar inside Messi's head. Dua Lipa's fingers pushed deeper into Messi's chest, nails scraping the bone beneath, rooting inside him like black vines. The shadows surged, pouring through him, a tide that filled his veins with frost and fire. His eyes rolled back, white swallowed by a spreading ink that pulsed in time with the last flicker of the dying candle. A hairline crack split the mirror nearest the piano, a fracture that ran across its surface like a wound splitting open. Through it, Messi thought he glimpsed something watching, an eye vast and blind and hungry, staring back at him through the crawling dark. The last of his breath hitched in his throat as Dua Lipa's voice slipped inside him, wrapping around his last lucid thought. The shadows pressed against his teeth, pushing, forcing him to swallow them whole. The room seemed to tilt, marble floor slick beneath his knees as the wind howled one final time against the shattered terrace doors. Ronaldo's grip shifted, tilting Messi's head back to face the ceiling where cracks now spiraled out like veins feeding an open wound. The roar in Messi's skull split into laughter. Not his, not hers, but something deeper, ancient, a sound that should never be spoken aloud. The candle flame sputtered, guttered, flared one last time. The shadows inside him pulsed once. Then the ceiling above him began to buckle, raining down a fine dust that tasted of ash and old secrets. The ceiling cracked wider, sending down a fine rain of plaster that dusted Messi's hair and shoulders like funeral ash. The roar inside his skull trembled, fractured, then broke open into silence that rang louder than any scream. Dua Lipa's fingers froze against his chest, the cruel smile fading as the shadows that bound them flickered and recoiled. Messi's eyes snapped open, black irises now flecked with a pale glow that pulsed in time with his breath. Ronaldo's grip tightened once, then loosened, his eyes widening as he felt the tremor pass through Messi's bones. Messi's hand rose, slow but steady, and closed around Dua Lipa's wrist. His palm burned against her cold skin, a warmth that pushed back the crawling dark. The shadows shrieked in voices only he could hear, twisting in the corners of the fractured mirrors, but they found no purchase in his veins now. Dua Lipa tried to pull back, but Messi's grip held her there. Her own reflection in the mirror showed not power but fear. He spoke, his voice ragged but clear, each word shaped by the flame that now lived behind his eyes. You chose the secret over the truth. The piano behind him shuddered, strings snapping in a final, discordant gasp as if the music itself died in surrender. Ronaldo stepped back, his hands falling away, eyes darting between Messi's face and the broken candle burning steady at their feet. Dua Lipa's mouth opened to plead or curse, but the shadows betrayed her. They peeled away from her shoulders like dead skin, shrinking from Messi's touch. He pressed her wrist tighter, forcing her to look at him. Really look, without masks, without poison. I trusted what I wanted to hear, Messi said, voice softer now, but heavy with grief that filled every crack in the room. And you fed it to me. Her lips trembled, words caught behind perfect teeth that no longer seemed sharp, only brittle. The shadows coiled around her throat like a serpent devouring its own tail. A wind tore through the shattered terrace doors, cold and clean, scattering the green flame into sparks that hissed out against the marble. The mirrors shivered, then cracked all at once, shards raining to the floor, reflecting Messi's face 100 times, each one more alive than the last. Dua Lipa sank to her knees before him, her hand limp in his grip, eyes wide with the truth she could never swallow. Ronaldo watched, silent, a tremor of something, regret maybe, flickering across the iron lines of his face. Messi let her wrist fall. He stepped back from the dark stain that no longer pulsed, from the piano that no longer sang lies. The wind swept through the broken room, carrying away the scent of poison, the stench of secrets turned sour. Messi turned to Ronaldo, whose eyes could no longer meet his. In that silence, a lesson carved itself into the broken marble and the trembling walls. A secret has no power when light finds it. A lie can bind you only if you believe you deserve its chains. And the truth, no matter how brutal, frees the soul that dares to face it. Messi stepped through the shattered doors into the night rain that washed the ash from his hair, the bitter taste from his tongue. He felt the last tremor leave his chest, leaving only the quiet drum of his own heart, steady, stubborn, alive. Behind him, the darkness curled into itself and died without a whisper. In the end, there was only this truth. No secret was worth the weight of your own soul. And freedom, once claimed, could never be stolen again.